So now we remove the muslin on the table. And you also could notice that the back of the bodice is also becoming 3-dimensional. And the side seam, the front and the back, pin them together. So we release the dot at the back. Release dot at the back. And also the ease at the back. Okay? Turn over it. Let the front upside. I will transfer the side seam to the back. So I use the tracing paper. Okay. And release the pins. Tracing the intersection of side seam and armhole. Tracing the intersection of waist and side seam. We need to give ease for the armhole and the side seam. Lower 1 inch of the bottom of armhole. Lower 1 inch. And outside and beyond the side seam, ½ inch. So we got a new point. Mark it. Lower 1 inch from the original bottom armhole. Beyond ½ inch from the side seam. Lower 1/4 at the side seam at the waist. Lower 1/4. Mark it. So we got a new side seam, a loose side seam. I use red pen to connect it. Tracing the new point, tracing the new side seam to the back. Tracing the new side seam to the back. Okay, so you can see so we could connect the side seam. The tight one and the looser one. Okay, so it's the side seam of the back. And then the same way we drew in the neckline, shoulder line. At the beginning of the neckline at level. And then use French curve. Use French curve to smooth to draw in the neckline. For the shoulder dart, we connected the waist dart point first, and then draw it. So before we draw the shoulder dart, with the bat to draw the waist dart. The same way as we set the waist dart with the bat to check the ease. There is 1/4 for ease at the waist. We have 1/4 ease for each quarter waist. Okay? We need to check. Okay, so it's almost there are 1/4 for ease. We could draw the dot. we need to find the middle of the dot. Draw the middle of the dot. And draw a straight lengthwise through the middle. And reach the lower armhole level. So this point, mark it as the dot, west dot point. Connect the dot leg. Draw another dot leg. Okay. For the shoulder dot, we connect the shoulder dot point close to the neckline to the waist dot point. Measure from the shoulder along the line 3 inches and mark it. This as the dot point. Connect another shoulder leg of the shoulder dot. Okay, so we got the shoulder dot. Okay. As we finish drawing the dot, we need to fold the dot together. The same way, we crease the dot leg close to the center back. Crease the dot leg close to the center back and match another dot leg. And pin them together. Crease the leg close to the neckline. Crease it and match to another leg and pin them together. Okay. After we pin the shoulder dot, we could draw the shoulder line. So the back shoulder line is different to the front. The front shoulder line is a straight line, and the back shoulder line is curved. So we could use French curve to draw the back shoulder line. So the back shoulder line is curved as sharp. We put the French curve like that. The two curves combined at the shoulder dot. So it is a finished shape. As we draw the shoulder line, then we continue to draw the armhole line. At the beginning, armhole line perpendicular to shoulder line. Then we use the French curve. We use French curve to draw the armhole line. Then draw the bottom part of the armhole. Okay, so it's the tighter armhole, and now we need to draw the looser armhole. Give the ½ inch. So because the side seam will pin together, side seam front and the back will pin together at the side The front and the back will pin together at the side seam. So the armhole should be very smooth, connected front and the back. So first, let's finish the front armhole. And normally, we combine this, the bottom armhole, combine the up armhole at the screw level. And the back, we combine the upper armhole around the shoulder blade level. Okay, so you can notice the whole armhole curve is very smooth. We also give a quarter ease at the neckline, front neckline. The intersection of the neckline and the center front lower a quarter. And then we combine the original part at the shoulder. Okay, after drawing that lines, we could give seam allowance. Normally we give a ½ inch seam allowance at the neckline, 1 inch for seam allowance at the shoulder. Give ½ inch for seam allowance at the armhole, and 1 inch for the side seam. You can see we already finished the most part, and only the waist is unfinished. And we need to pin the side seam together, front and back. Pin the shoulder line together, front and back. So first, let's pin the side seam, the front, the back, and the front together at the side seam. We fold the back on the front and pin them together. After we pin the side seam together, we draw in the waistline. At the center front and the center back, the first part of the waistline is perpendicular to the center front, perpendicular to the center back. So we draw level line at the beginning. Draw the waistline as level at the beginning. And then use hip curve to draw in the line. Okay, drawing the waistline. Then give 1.5 inch for seam rounds at the waist. Trim off the excess fabric. Then pin the shoulder line together. Pin the front and the back at the shoulder line. We fold the back shoulder on the front. Match the neckline, dot, and the shoulder point. Neckline, dot, and the shoulder point. There are 1/8 for ease at each side of the dot. There's 1/8 for ease. Okay. We pin together at the shoulder line, pin together at the side seam. Then I pin the draped bodice on the form again to double check the balance, ease, proportion. After we place the bodice back to the form, we need to check the fit. The first overlook very clean and tidy. And then we need to check the ease, the amount of ease. There's no ease at the neckline, no ease. It's smooth, no ease. And there's 1/2 inch ease at the side seam. Normally, a little more ease at the back, about 1/8 more ease than the front. There are 1/4 ease at each quarter waist. Okay, and then we need to check the balance and the proportion. Okay, so all the length grain hangs straight down. That means perpendicular to the floor. All the crosswise grain is perfectly level to the floor. Then the side seam should match the side seam of the form. That means the side seam should straight down and perpendicular to the floor. Okay, after we finished draping the basic bodice, we should place the bodice on the form again to check the fit. First, overlook, it should be clean and tidy. All the grains is smooth without pulling, twisting, or distorting. Secondly, we need to check the amount of ease. No ease at the neckline. There's about 1/2 inch at the side seam front. A little more ease at the side seam back. About 1/8 more ease at the back than the front. About 1/4 ease at the each quarter waist. About 1/4 is at the back shoulder. Then we will check the balance and proportion. Front and back grand lines hang straight and perpendicular to the floor. Front and back cross grands are perfectly level to the floor. Draped side seam align with the side seam of the form. That means the side seam perpendicular to the floor. All dots pinned in the correct position and pinned in correct direction. Side seam match together the same length.